Confused about evidence in your business viability and forecasting in the current climate? Let's take a better look. See you on the other side. Hey guys, welcome to our first episode of Business and You. My name's Mark and I'm from UMO and we are business and finance specialists. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at business viability and we're also going to take a better look at forecasting and what forecasting actually means for your business. Given the current climate and all the support packages that are currently available, I thought in today's session video, it would be a great idea to just drill down into some more of the detail around how you can prove that your business is viable and what considerations you really do need to be taking when it comes to forecasting. This is a really useful criteria to check against and key for most lenders and helps to evidence your company's strength up until December 19 before we really started to feel the impact of COVID-19. So what I thought we'd do, we'd take a close look at a profit and loss, P&L, you may well know it as, and just really understand the numbers that are in there and this system, otherwise referred to as EBITDA, EBITDA. Yeah, that's right. Let's take a deeper look into EBITDA and start to pull this apart in a bit more detail. So taking a look at this example, this is just a breakdown of the EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. As you can see here, we've got net profit plus your interest plus tax plus depreciation and amortization. What we've done, we've just pulled in the end of a profit or loss here, which contains the important information that we're actually looking for. So I've highlighted some of the key parts. So firstly, let's have a look at net profit. You can find that here. Here's your interest that's payable. Here is your depreciation, and as you can see, we don't have any goodwill on here, but it is highlighted. You'll also notice there's no tax on here, and that's because this particular example had a loss in the previous year. So taking these numbers, it's a reasonably simple calculation. So we take net profit, 42,866, add back your interest, 63,499, adding back in your depreciation, 10,570, gives us an EBITDA figure of 116,935. And then we've got taking that EBITDA number less your dividends, because you need to draw money out of the business. Existing loan repayments, we just assumed a figure annually of £20,000. So that leaves us with £66,935, which we can use to evidence that we can service loans. Most lenders will want to see sort of 1.5 times cover. So the simple calculation here is to take that number, divide it by 1.5, and that'll give you the number you can afford to service in loans. Okay, so that's a better overview around EBITDA, the calculation, what you need to add back in and how you can work out whether you can afford loan repayments. But obviously that is taking information up to December 19 and isn't necessarily a true reflection of your business as it stands today. Now we are in a unique set of circumstances, so it's key here that we utilise forecasting as well and look into the future as best we can. Now, it's a really, really tough thing to do in the current climate. Okay, and these are probably the biggest conversations I have with clients currently is how do we forecast something we simply don't know how to manage? How do we know that anything that we are going to say is ever likely to happen? Well, there are a few basic assumptions that you can make. I would suggest that you want to be realistic and possibly pessimistic around this time at the moment. You're not trying to demonstrate to a lender that you have oodles of opportunity, which is what you would normally do. What you're currently trying to do is to demonstrate the exact position of the business in order to demonstrate the peak cash requirement that the business is going to need between now and the end of COVID-19 and the lifting of the restrictions. So in order to do this, there are a few key questions you need to be asking yourself. What income can you rely on? What will your business look like after the restrictions are lifted? What costs can you remove whilst your revenue has been hampered. So let's look at those in a bit more detail. With your income, do you have guaranteed or fixed income? Perhaps you're in a retainer, perhaps you've got obligations which you can fulfill remotely. Do you need to be on site? Do you need to deliver your service in person? Are you perhaps a retailer, one that has a physical presence and both an online presence? Obviously, your physical presence has been severely hampered, if not disappeared altogether. However, you're still able to generate revenue, albeit on a reduced basis, purely by pushing your retail. Are you actually able to deliver the stock? So you may be generating a lot of traffic through your website, however, has the infrastructure been damaged to the point where you can't actually deliver the goods? Or is it indeed safe to deliver the goods? You may have clients queuing up for what you need, but can you physically get hold of the stock? Has your supply chain been damaged as a direct result of the restrictions of movement? Were you importing goods from overseas? Has that now been delayed? Are your suppliers UK based, but they can't get the goods into the country? These are considerations which are ultimately going to damage your revenue and your ability to sell to your clients. Or do the restrictions mean that simply all of your income is stopped? If you're in hospitality, there are certain businesses whereby they have ultimately just had their revenue just turned off. This is potentially catastrophic to a business to have their overheads which they still have to fulfill and ultimately have no revenue in which to deliver that. So what are we looking at? Forecast, be realistic and understand exactly what's going to happen to your revenue. Because ultimately you'll need to justify, if you say that you've got X amount of revenue, you'll need to be able to justify to a lender where that's coming from. What will your business look like after the restrictions are lifted? Will your clients still be around? Were they financially strong enough before all of this that they can survive? Whereby they're going to come back to you and continue to buy goods or services that you previously offered pre-COVID-19? Or did they also lose their revenues, which meant that they couldn't recover? How quickly, realistically, can you become fully operational? How long will it take you to get stock in if you sell goods? How long will it take you to get your team back in, up and running? Some of them may still have been ill, even though the restrictions may have lifted. So how quickly can you get fully operational? How quick will your clients need you and how quickly will they become fully operational and the demand for your product or service to return to its former levels? Another thing to consider, which we've seen a lot of, is this adapting of businesses. So if you've adapted your business, will you revert back to what you were doing previously? For example, we've seen a lot of restaurants who have ultimately had their revenues stopped. However, they've pivoted into a delivery type service. There's a huge demand, as you can imagine, in the current climate and the restrictions of movement, whereby everybody has been encouraged to order food in and have it delivered to the house. What will your business look like afterwards? Remember that circumstance is driving behaviour. When all the restrictions are lifted, are people going to want to stay in and continue to order food to the house, or are they going to rather come and visit your restaurant? So have a think about what your business will ultimately look like after this is all settled back down again. What cost can you reduce while your revenue isn't where it needs to be or where it hasn't been previously? Review your fixed costs. Look at things like your loan repayments. Can you speak to your lenders to see if you can get some capital repayment holidays? Speak to your landlord, see if you can come to an arrangement. Whilst they may not allow you to take a complete holiday, perhaps they'll allow you to reduce the payment because it's obviously in their best interest as well that they retain you after this event. Are there services you're paying for that you simply don't need whilst you're not trading? For example, subscriptions, certain insurances, perhaps it would be worth reviewing those as well. Some are critical to your business whilst it's hibernating, others perhaps not so critical. Again, this is an assessment as to what you can and can't do. Is your VAT liability due? Do you really need to be paying your VAT now? There's the opportunity here to push that back to the end of the tax year, but remember, these are deferred. This isn't free. They're not making you not pay your VAT. They're allowing you time to recover and subsequently pay it in the future. Are you in the process of furloughing your staff? We'll be doing a separate piece on this later on because there's a lot to be considered around furloughing staff and the concern certainly around HR individuals and employment lawyers is that perhaps the process isn't being followed as robustly as it should do, which could lead businesses to criticism or liabilities in the future. If you are furloughing staff and you're obviously relying on the 80% of the monies that are going to be paid by government, to subsidise your staff costs. When will this money materialise? The portal is due to arrive come mid-April. If you believe that to be the case, it's a huge job. Is it actually going to get here? Remains to be seen. When it is up and running, how many people are going to log on? Thousands and thousands are going to be jumping onto the portal. Can they deal with the traffic? Can they process that many applications quick enough to get you the cash? The other consideration is it's likely to be paid in arrears, or well, it will be paid in arrears. So can you survive until such time that that kicks in? And again, just be realistic with your timescales. Are you reliant on grants? There are a few grants available which are linked to business rates. Are you eligible? Have you actually registered your interest? Jump onto our Facebook page or our LinkedIn page, where you'll see we've posted a link if you're based in Wales, in order to register your interest in the grants. When will those funds arrive? Councils are under immense pressure as well. It's not just businesses they're trying to look after, they're trying to keep essential services going. They too are feeling the effects of the movements, or the restriction of movements. They don't have the bodies in the office that they normally would. So this is, this is almost like the perfect storm for delays. So you really do need to be thinking about, realistically, how long is it before this money materialises? And hopefully it's sooner rather than later, because everybody wants it. But again, I can't emphasise enough that we just need to be sensible and realistic about when these are going to come into play. So whilst you're looking at this for possibly an application, whether that be an application to Development Bank of Wales, whether that be an application for CBILS through your bank or other provider, you should really be asking yourself these questions anyway, whether you intend on applying for money or not. These can fundamentally make or break your business over the short to medium term. And as always, be honest with yourself. Do you take a certain amount to the business that you have to take to survive? Don't forecast that you can afford to live on £1,000 when you clearly need £2,500 just to make ends meet. Be realistic, be truthful, be honest. The other question is, do you need or do you want to borrow in order to see yourself get through this? Some of the liabilities that we've mentioned are actually the company's liabilities if you're a limited company. By borrowing under the CBILS scheme, a lot of the lenders require a personal guarantee. So what is currently a company liability could become a personal liability. And is that the right course of action? Are you comfortable that the business will recover? This is why it's so important that you're honest with yourself around what can and can't be achieved, because what you don't want to do is find yourself in 12 months' time struggling to make the repayments that you committed to because you've deferred everything and haven't thought about how you're possibly going to repay it all back. If you want to discuss anything that's been covered off in this episode, feel free to get in contact. The contact details should be at the bottom of the screen right now. Alternatively, you can reach us at umo.finance, where you'll find some other information on the website and also further contact details to get in touch with us. So that's all that's left for me to say is thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch. If there's anything that you want us to cover, any topics that you would really like some additional information about, just let us know and we'll be happy to cover them. Stay safe and see you soon.